UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy starship has been designed.
Transporter Chief, beam our listeners aboard. Welcome to Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast on the United Federation of Podcasts. On the United Federation of Podcasts.
Where are we?
I don't know. Who knows? Somewhere in the United Federation of Podcast Network. I am no clue. I don't know. I think my name is Joe Keegan and I've got some job on board a ship. Joined with me today is my diplomatic standard bearer, Kevin Scharf, and my Chief Recreational Officer, Rhea Papagiorgio. How are you both today?
Doing good.
Doing good, yeah.
Happy Saturday morning to y'all.
Yes.
Or afternoon, if you're
in Scotland.
in the future like me.
Or happy Tuesday evening if you're listening to this later.
Yeah, not this coming Tuesday because it won't be out by then.
No.
So
well, it could be like a Tuesday in October.
True. Or a Tuesday or any day in the future after next Friday when it gets released. In any case, I thought we should mention, because it is September the 11th, 2021, that it's the 20th anniversary of what we all know as 9/11 and those tragic events that took place in the United States. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been posting about it on Facebook today, and most people have been saying everybody knows where you were. Mm-hmm. Regardless of where in the planet you live, you know exactly where you were and what you were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just take a moment and think about the people that lost their lives and their loved ones. Keeping on that same theme, Kevin and I watched something on Apple TV Plus last night called Come From Away, which I'd never heard of before the trailers came out on Apple TV. I was completely blown away by it. There must have been a lot of dust in the air because, yeah, I definitely teared up.
I think it was transatlantic dust because my eyes welled up right from the opening of the overture.
Must have been Orion pheromones.
I am very familiar with this show. I saw it in Toronto. I saw the Broadway cast in Toronto before the show moved to New York, and I fell in love with it even then. And even before then, I had heard about it because it's, in a way, it's, although it deals with the after effects of what happened on 9/11, it really is a Canadian story. The show was actually created at a college that has a musical theater program in Toronto, so it was like generated by students and faculty there before it became this big international mega hit. And it is on my, if it's not number one on my list of all-time favorite musicals, it is in my top 5. I love it that much, and every time I listen to the cast album, it makes me cry because it's just a really emotional. I was thinking, like, if I ever got a chance to do this show, to be in this play, I don't know if I could hold it together long enough because it's that, it just hits me that hard. I love it so much. I'm so glad that Apple had it filmed.
I know there's a lot of legal, logistical reasons why they don't do it, and which for me, it means a lot of people don't get to see a musical. You can only get to see a musical like if you live somewhere where the musical's showing or where a touring cast bring it to. But a lot of the time, like, they'll do limited runs and then the show will go into obscurity. So I think the more we get of recorded, filmed musicals, the better. For anybody that doesn't know, Come From Away is a story of the 30 or so flights that got diverted to the small town of Gander in Newfoundland when the events of 9/11 were happening. And it's about the relationship between those 7,000 passengers and the 7,000 townsfolk of the little villages and towns near Gander. Yeah.
Wow, and I've never seen it as, of course, the pop culture pack led, but when you guys were telling me about it, as an airline employee, I could not imagine anything bigger than an Airbus landing at our airport here in Lincoln. So just the logistics of that. But then I think Americans in particular may not realize, we think of 9/11 as our holiday, our tragedy, but the impact that it's had around the world, down to specific towns in Canada. Wow, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reason this little town has such a big airport was because before there were jumbo jets that could do transatlantic flights from Dallas to Paris, they would have to. It was the easternmost airport in North America, so planes would stop there to refuel. And in the show, they talk about all the major celebrities who had been to Gander because of that. Muhammad Ali, Frank Sinatra, the Queen. The Beatles made their first step on North American soil in Gander, Newfoundland, because the plane had to stop there to refuel. And now the airport's nearly abandoned because a town of 9,000 people does not need an international airport anymore. But it's a good thing it was there on that day. Now, it wasn't the only airport that planes got diverted to, but because it could handle large jumbo jets, a lot of planes, 38 planes got diverted there.
Oh, okay, wow. What I found really interesting was, which kind of maybe makes sense when you're saying it's the furthest easternmost point, a lot of them seem to have kind of Irish-type accents, and I was wondering if you live in Newfoundland, is your accent kind of Irish adjacent?
They are doing very typical Newfoundland accents, and
Wow.
I think a lot of Irish settlers ended up in Newfoundland. Newfoundland is actually the last province to join Canada. Before it only joined Canada in 1949 after the war.
Really?
And until then, it was a British colony on its own, they had a vote in the late 40s. And they joined the rest of the country at that point. So Newfoundland is the only province I've never been to because it is so sort of isolated and so far east. But it's a place I really want to go to because it's it feels to me like the one place in Canada that really has its own sort of culture and tradition and music. The music in Come From Away is very typical Newfoundland style folk music. Which has this sort of Irish tinge to it, right? Lots of fiddles and mandolins and
fiddles and the bodhran, the drum. It screamed Ireland at me, and I was wondering about the relationship there. So that's interesting to know.
Interesting. Well, you guys really make me want to watch this.
Please, you have to do it.
Even
if you don't have Apple TV Plus, just go out and subscribe.
It's like
for a week.
$6 for a month of Apple TV. It's worth it. And you can also watch Ted Lasso while you're there.
Do you know what, Kevin? Kevin, Ted Lasso. Do you know what? I do not like soccer. I've never watched a game. I watched the end of the European Cup final, I think, this year, because it was England against somebody. Italy, maybe? I don't know. Okay, so I watched the last 4 minutes because it came down to penalties. I think Italy won, didn't they?
They did.
So... also we have to say, listeners, that we do not get any payment from Apple because we're going to shout out to another Apple TV Plus original show, and that's Ted Lasso, which, like Come From Away, makes me laugh and it makes me cry and it makes me sad. And it just kind of fills me with joy in places. It's hilarious and poignant. Jason Sudeikis plays...
he's Greek. Okay, I've heard of this show.
of course you know
he's Greek, yeah.
So he plays, I think, an American football coach who comes over to the UK to coach a struggling Premiership soccer or football team.
In the first season, they're a Premier League team. Then they get...
do you know what? See all the football stuff? I kind of goes over my head. I don't really pay attention. It's the character development and the stories that
Should I
really
mute,
get me.
For the spoilers here, or...
No,
just go watch it. See, if you go out and buy an iPhone or an iPad or something, you get
a year's free. 6 months.
Is it a year still? Okay.
Then I probably have it. They gave me an iPhone for work.
Oh, well, then you probably do have Apple TV, and you can watch these things for free. I also recommend Schmigadoon on Apple TV Plus. And Central Park.
I watched a few episodes of that. I recommend C.
I haven't watched C yet.
Jason Momoa.
Oh, what's it called?
C. S-E-E.
C. Dystopian future. Everybody's blind apart from a couple of people.
They filmed that around here too. That show is filmed in this part of the world.
What else is good? The Morning Show. I love The Morning Show.
And I've also heard good things about For All Mankind.
For All Mankind is like the most awesome thing I've ever seen.
So it sounds like I'm going to need to quit my day job in order to watch all this stuff, but then I'd lose my Apple TV subscription and wouldn't be able to afford the $6 a month. So I don't know.
You've got to be choosy.
Last shout out, non-Apple TV related. Every week I'm going to just get more and more excited about the new Dune movie. Which I say like the month, I realise. Before July, after May. Just because the Scottish accent makes it come out like a J sound. So yeah, Dune, Denis Villeneuve, Frank Herbert's unfilmable magnum opus is coming to your screens, I think, in October.
I could go see it next week because it's opening at the Toronto Film Festival. They're doing a gala premiere at the Toronto Film Festival. I'm not going because I do not have enough time or money to go to the Toronto Film Festival. But
you're too busy watching all your shows on Apple TV.
Exactly.
Yeah, so listeners, if you get bored, please tell us if you're getting bored of me mentioning Dune because I'm so excited about it.
I went to a movie theater last weekend and saw Shang-Chi, the new Marvel film. It is quite fun. If you like kung fu movies.
I've heard that.
Logs accessed.
But I suppose we should do some feedback now.
Sure.
About last week's episode 65, which was our Lwaxana Troy profile. We had Matthew Malecki from the Federation Council Chambers asking if Lwaxana is a well-liked character. I've only seen her in a few episodes so far. I am in the middle of season 3 of my first TNG watch through, and I don't really care for her very much. I started listening to Galaxy Class from the beginning several weeks ago, so it'll be a while until I reach the most recent episode. I'm really enjoying the podcast so far though.
Yay!
Matthew, thanks for reaching out as a new Galaxy Class fan. That's awesome. Welcome to the Federation Council Chambers and our little podcasting world. So when you catch up, you will more than likely answer your own question there. Mm-hmm. I think we all unanimously agree early on we don't really like her all that much. It's a struggle to like the character, but then she very quickly grows on you with the development that she gets.
You know, it's kind of like, and I'm so sorry to say this name, but Jar Jar Binks, who just was played for annoying comedy relief and was never given any depth and never given any vulnerability or anything. And, you know, to this day, I think if most people ran into Jar Jar in a dark alley, you know, we know what we do. But Lwaxana was actually given all those different dimensions to her character, and now we love her.
Absolutely.
But don't you think you'd want to go to a party hosted by Lwaxana Troy, or just like be in her presence? Like, she might come off as an annoying caricature in the first few episodes, but she just seems so magnanimous and so positively upbeat that I think if she befriended you, you'd gain access to a whole world of possibilities that you never knew existed, I think.
Yes. I just want to hug her. She just seems so awesome.
I think it might depend because she's definitely an extrovert.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an introvert, would you naturally gravitate towards her at a party? You might not be at the party in the first place.
Or if you were, you wouldn't have a choice. She might just gravitate toward you.
And maybe her empathic abilities would kind of have a positive effect on your kind of introvertness. But that sounds like I'm saying that being an introvert is a bad thing. And I don't necessarily think
I think she would be able to anticipate your needs because of her telepathic abilities, right?
That's a very good point.
She might tailor her magnanimity to what you need and want.
So Greg Cox writes in the Federation Council Chambers, I enjoyed writing her the one and only time I used her in a Trek story. She's a fun character. I confess, I can never remember how to spell Lwaxana. I always have to look it up. Smiley face emoji. So, okay, for those of you who don't know, Greg Cox is an author who's written a number of Star Trek novels, and we're super tickled that you are listening to Galaxy Class.
I've just realised that I recognised that name, and I was like, oh, that Greg Cox now? That's awesome.
Yes. He wrote the Khan Noonien Singh trilogy, Devil in the Sky, The Black Shore, the short story Night of the Vulture in the Tales of the Dominion War anthology. Most recently, there's a Pocket TOS novel series. Yeah, so FYI, those of you that read Star Trek fiction, be sure to look up Greg Cox.
Yeah. I know Greg didn't write this novel, but there is a great Peter David novel called Q and Law, where that's a very fun scene to read.
That would be fun. I imagine you can do an awful lot with her in book form. Yes, thank you, Greg, for your feedback.
Now, Paul Wright Jr. in the Federation Council Chambers wrote, "Great episode. I also did not care for Lwaxana's character early in the series, as I saw her as annoying comic relief, but like all of you, she grew on me in the later seasons and on DS9. To this day, Dark Page and Half a Life make me tear up every time. Her DS9 episodes added to the depth of her character."
Yeah, Paul, right. Paul, we're right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, Paul Wright.
Yeah, no, it's like it's a bit of a tongue twister I gave myself.
I think we're pretty much all on the same page, albeit not a dark page about Lwaxana.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think it started with Half a Life, which was where we finally saw that she had some depth to her, and that
because she's annoying, and you don't like her decisions throughout most of that episode. And she's very forthright, and she's fighting for what she believes, even though it makes you feel uncomfortable because these people have their culture. But then at the end, I think she does the right thing, doesn't she?
And it's a good study, I think, in, it's one thing to fight for what you believe is right and to stand up for your principles. But at some point, there's a line where now you're infringing upon someone else's culture and their beliefs and their right to do what they believe is right. Right? All right?
Right. Rhea? Oh, dear. Okay, let us talk about something.
And now for something completely different.
New.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
In episode 37, listeners, we brought you our first Science and TNG episode. And now in episode 57, we're bringing you a second Science and TNG episode. So I thought we'd start off with a little science general roundup. What is happening in science these days from my, albeit limited, knowledge. The first thing that I could think of, which kind of is maybe a little bit related to what we see in TNG, is the James Webb Space Telescope. NASA's new venture, well, lots of companies involved. I think NASA are spearheading the whole project. The James Webb Space Telescope is due to launch. I think it's way overdue. It was supposed to be next month. Now it's been pushed to December. But it's roughly going to be 100 times more powerful than the Hubble Space Telescope. Which means that telescope power is all related to your ability to gather light. And this has got a much bigger mirror, or a series of mirrors, compared to Hubble. And so it's able to collect more light. The more light you can collect, then essentially you're collecting more light from earlier on in the universe, i.e. you're able to see further away. So we can see potentially the beginnings of the universe from a very long time ago. TNG related is a bit like the Argus Array, which is in Nth Degree, yes, or the Amargosa Observatory from Generations.
So this leads me to a question that's sort of related. Maybe in your great knowledge as a physics person, you can tell me this. Why is the night sky dark if there are so many light sources in the sky? Why isn't the whole sky
if the universe is indeed infinite?
So the reason for that it's a really old question. It's called Olber's paradox, and it asks why isn't the whole night sky bright if the universe is A, infinite, and B, full of stars, and all those stars are really bright. So it's because the speed of light is limited. And takes light time to get from one star to our eyes. And also in that, some stars will have been born, lived, and then died. And then other stars will have been yet to be born. So you're going to have varying brightness like of the nighttime sky. Just because it's very big and everything's very spaced out.
Does expansion of the universe play into that as well? Where the earlier, more distant stars or light sources, the light wavelengths are so stretched that they've basically fallen out of our visual range?
That's a good question. I think most of the stars that we see are in the Milky Way galaxy. In the Milky Way, any galaxies are not expanding in themselves. It's the space in between the galaxies that are expanding. And the rate of that expansion is increasing. So we're getting further apart, but over time we're getting further apart faster.
Because within our galaxy, we've got, cosmic dust and other stuff, planets, asteroids that would absorb or block or deflect that light. But without, outside of the galaxy, like if you look into the night sky and you see these pinpoints of light, some are stars, but some are actual galaxies. Yeah, I don't know. I always figured that some stuff and if it's outside of our light cone, we'll never see it anyway.
True. But the Milky Way is just full of stuff, roughly like 100 to 400 billion stars.
Yeah, chocolate, caramel, peanuts. What else is in the Milky Way? No, there's no peanuts in the Milky Way.
There's no peanuts in the Milky Way. You're thinking marathon, which we used to call marathon. Sure, they probably did in Canada as well.
No, none of these are familiar to me.
Nonsense.
Marathon? Did you say marathon?
Which is now Snickers.
Oh, no, we've always had Snickers.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then the Mars bar, which is like a Snickers with no peanuts.
So the next thing I wanted to mention was something that I have not been following at all, and that's SpaceX and their work on Starship, which is their manned vehicle, which is potentially going to be used to take people to Mars. They're going to sit on top of the Falcon Heavy rocket. And I didn't realise until I started watching some videos on it. My head teacher in school, my principal, had said, you should really watch some of these videos. It's pretty astounding what they're doing. It's like the whole thing's massive. Like, if you thought the Saturn V rocket was big, this is bigger. Starship, the manned vehicle, if you compare it to the space shuttle, which could hold maybe 4 people max, 6 people max maybe, this can hold 100. There's going to be space for 100 people on board. Potentially with space for living quarters and a gym and a kitchen and all sorts. And I'm like, that's getting to Star Trek level size. Yeah,
and a chef?
I know.
How many could the NX-01 hold?
100? A couple hundred maybe?
So we're getting that much closer.
Yeah, I thought it was very cool. Plus, there was the whole thing about, they had a dilemma where they had to design the bit of the rocket. Now when you launch and then you go up to space and bits fall off, boosters will be ejected because you've used up all the fuel and they'll return to Earth. And they were trying to figure out the design for these things, and then apparently Elon Musk turned around and said, do we actually need these things? Do we need a convoluted ejection system? It turns out they didn't. So what they did, they basically just stacked everything on top of each other, like bricks.
Have you made a reservation?
Okay, imagine a stack of bricks.
Are they taking
and then when you're finished with the one at the bottom, you just tell its lateral engines to give it a little bit of a push sideways, and it snaps off like a bit of chocolate from a bar. So there's no fancy locking mechanism or mechanical things that could go wrong. I was pretty astounded by it.
Wow.
So yeah, that was cool.
That is cool.
Do you know, I would love to, don't have the money, and I'll probably hang back until it's super safe. I'm not that pioneering. The next thing, kind of weather, we're all thinking about climate change and all the really adverse weather scenarios that we see going on. Fires in Greece and Italy and the US and Australia. Hurricanes, I know hurricanes are kind of annual, but there's been people dying all over the world because of, was New York not flooded and people drowned in their basements, that kind of thing, very recently. So yeah, that's kind of on my mind. And then I was thinking about here, the other day, this is September, and it's normally quite cold. It was 30 degrees Celsius here the other day in September, which is, I don't remember it ever being that warm here. And it felt like coming from a coldish country, when you go on holiday to a hot country and you step off the plane onto the tarmac and that hot humidity hits you. It was like that. And I was like, this is just very strange. Also, I was driving down from Glasgow home, and there's a bit of a hill down on the highway, let's call it that. And the bay that the town of Ayr sits in, there was a thing called a HAAR, Haar, which is that rolling sea fog. Now, the way you see in San Francisco, the fog rolls in off the ocean. We had one of those, and it pretty much blanketed the whole area. So you got to the bottom of the hill on this highway, and then you entered this wall of misty fog. It was very eerie, very cool, but very unusual. I was like, what's going on here? These are just some of the things that have occurred to me in terms of science and why is weather happening like this? what's happening to the climate. Because we all know it's changing. What is it we do about it to stop it? I don't know.
And really, the Earth will survive. We only really need to do something about it if we want it to continue to be habitable for human life. So, if that's a priority, then
I think it maybe is for all of us. So let's move on to our main topic of today, where my hosts get to ask me some sciencey questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. Rhea, do you want to take it away?
Yes. So, a couple nights ago, The Last Outpost was on TV on HNI, and it was recently a contestant in a Batleth battle, and then in a recent Lower Decks episode, there were some references to it. So I was wondering about the Ferengi energy whips. How do they work? Because not only they're like pool noodles that whip or whatever, but they can shoot out the energy, some kind of energy beam from them. So how would we go about building one of those, Joe?
Well, I have no idea because it's all made up. However, I think they're probably not going to be so dissimilar to phasers. Yeah, there's an energy source and it produces some kind of beam of energy or maybe a pulse of energy that you then use the whipping action to aim and fire. So the whipping action is like your trigger mechanism, I suppose, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But the rest of it's just you're like a normal phaser.
So is the whipping action just for show?
I think so. It's maybe like a taser.
Is it like the equivalent of, when you're in ship-to-ship communications and like zooming in on 2/3 of your face on the view screen, kind of an intimidation thing, or does the whip provide any kind of advantage that a phaser wouldn't have?
I think when those Ferengi invaded the Enterprise NX-01 in that episode of Enterprise, they got a hold of a video of Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they went, "This guy's cool with his hat and his whip. Our heads are too big for a hat that would look good, so we'll just go with the whip."
Interesting. I'm not entirely sure how accurate or canon that is, but let's go with it. See, in terms of phasers as energy weapons, I think phasers, by the time we get to that point, phasers will be a lot smarter than the way they're portrayed on screen. I reckon a phaser can see what it's looking at. There's some kind of optical sensor on it. And then, a bit like a cursor, the arrow key, you can arrow through and it will select different targets. So you can point to any old way, roughly towards your target, and press the fire button. And as long as you've targeted, it'll aim and fire for you. I don't get having to aim with your own hand-eye coordination. I don't think that'll be a thing.
Maybe there are different modes for it. There's like, if you want to seek out, particular type of life form, you press the buttons, whatever, but like, maybe it's got like a quick, a heat of the moment where you can just aim it, point and shoot setting. Yeah,
like automatic. Yeah. Do you remember there was an original series episode, the one with the gangsters in it, I'm sure, and did Captain Kirk not use the wide beam dispersal mode and shoot from the first story window and got everybody in the street?
From the Starship, from the Enterprise. Use the phasers on stun setting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that would be a thing. Anytime I've got a bunch of people to hit, I'm just going to put it on wide beam.
Yeah.
Hit them all. Even if like Jem Hadar running through that canyon in the CGVR 558, just put your phaser on maximum wide beam.
There you go.
Just shoot in as they all run towards you.
I thought you meant personally, and that maybe your students should be beware.
Well, do you know what I've got on top of a cupboard in my classroom? I have the insides of an old microwave oven, the magnetron. The bit that produces the microwaves, it's disconnected, it's completely harmless. But I tell them if they misbehave, I'll instruct Alexa to target them. Fire briefly.
That's awesome.
I'm sure I would get sacked for that. There you go.
Education, life lessons.
True. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Rhea. Energy. I nearly called you energy because I saw Ferengi energy whips. Rhea, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to know more about the whipping action, but
Whipping with an emphasis on the H?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what? Whatever you decide to make up is good.
We'll go with Kevin's Indiana Jones theory.
That's a good theory.
No, it's from ancient Ferengi times, and there was a subspecies of Ferengi that get treated as kind of a cattle, and they used to whip them into submission. And so that's the historical context for the Ferengi pool noodles.
Figures there's some history there. There usually is.
It's absolutely true. Amy couldn't join us today because apparently we're only allowed 3 people on a show at a time. So we allowed her to send in a question, which is, in Tapestry, the Nausicaans cheat by using magnets to pull the balls in their direction. And then Picard's friend, I forget his name, does something to the board that will negate what they did. What science could he use other than magnets? Because if he uses magnets, then wouldn't he be cheating another cheat game? He acts like he is undoing the Nausicaans' effect, but I don't see how he can negate the effect without cheating himself. Amy, that's a very good question. I suppose, imagine you've got a magnet outside your pool table and a metal ball, the metal ball rolls in a straight line. It's going to be deflected by the magnet either towards or away from it, depending on the directions of the magnetic fields. So I suppose whatever Picard's friend did could be to put a magnet at the opposite side of the table. So if your ball rolls in a straight line and gets pulled towards the first magnet, the second magnet will negate that effect. So they'll both equally pull on the ball from either side. I think it was probably something a bit more sophisticated with the design of the pool table, that he could program it in such a way that it ignored the effect of the Nausicaans' magnetic cheating device, possibly.
So is it still cheating then, or is it just negating the cheating by positioning another magnet to neutralize the cheating magnet, therefore eliminating the cheat?
Okay, so if you know somebody's cheating, what would you do in normal situations? You would tell,
Fisticuffs.
like the umpire. You would tell somebody, like the bar person, the person that owned the bar, or whatever. Yeah, however, you're dealing with Nausicaans here. If you tell on them, then you're probably going to get stabbed in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best course of action is to try and, if you have the technological expertise, is to negate the cheating, if you can. Which then, it's in an effort to save you and also to make it fair. So I'm okay with it. I don't know where we'd stand legally if it came to court.
You're negating the cheat and therefore allowing a fair game to be played.
Yes, that was my thought.
And the Nazis are none the wiser.
True. Until you get stabbed in the heart. Yeah.
Could you use electricity? Ooh. Wouldn't that create an electromagnetic field that could negate the...
Yeah, I suppose you do, like electromagnetism, like light is a mixture, or anything on the electromagnetic spectrum, whether it's radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, visible, X-rays or gamma rays, they're all let's call it a mixture of electric fields and magnetic fields. So the easiest one is a scrapyard or a junkyard. Now the big crane thing with the magnet on it.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a big coil of wire that they pass an electric current through it. Anytime you have current passing through a wire, you're going to have a magnetic field around the wire. Mm-hmm. And if you shape your wire in such a way, then you can simulate the magnetic field around a bar magnet, and you produced a magnet. Hence the term electromagnet. It's a magnet that's been produced from using electricity. So yeah, I suppose if you used an electromagnet, then you could alter it. Because if you used fixed magnets, you can't change their magnetic field or their strength. So if you used an electromagnet, then you can change the voltage, turn the voltage up, increases the current, and you would have a stronger magnetic field. So if the Nausicaan device was kind of intelligent in any way, and it changed the parameters of its magnetism, while the Starfleet people were playing, then you could adjust your anti-cheating device to keep up with the changes of the Nausicaan cheating device, possibly.
I would imagine that they would have the technology by then to have an intelligent cheating device, so yeah.
Yeah, so you have to be smart in the way you counter it. Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay. Kevin, did you have a question?
I do have a question. So, in many episodes, when the Enterprise reaches a planet, Captain Picard will say that they should go into a standard orbit, or Worf will say we're in a standard orbit. So what exactly is a standard orbit, and would there ever be a reason to use an orbit that was not standard? And what other kinds of orbits would there be?
Thinking about standard orbit, we normally see the ship go into an orbit which is roughly in line with the equator. So it's like an equatorial orbit. Yeah, because we see the planet in space, because there's an up and there's a down in our Star Trek, isn't there? Mm-hmm. So planets are all kind of north to south pole rotating, and we fly up to like the zenith of the equator, and then we orbit at that point. So I think, just visually, I think a standard orbit is just to be flying round the line described by the equator. There are other orbits. You get polar orbits, which I think are when you go around kind of north to south pole.
Yeah, like longitudinally. Like in the Next Gen episode with the like creepy ghost people that take over Troy and O'Brien and
Data.
Yeah, and they wanted the Enterprise in a polar orbit.
That's right. So they could be above the crash site of their ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they mention polar orbit in the one where who's the escaped prisoner with
Oh yeah.
Planet with Zefram Cochrane. I read something earlier about the idea of standard orbit. Is just a nice, neat phrase that the captain can give the helm and say, go standard orbit. It's probably going to change depending on the planet they're at. Instead of saying, like, what altitude to be at, what kind of latitude, longitude around the planet, in terms of all the debris that might be in orbit, the planet's own satellites, in terms of natural and man-made satellites, or alien-made satellites that they have. It's just it fits well with TV. And the helms person can decide what's going to be the best for that particular planet.
Would they be able to turn off their engines if they entered an orbit? Right, like once something is orbiting a planet, it would just keep sort of going on its own accord, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there is that point. There is a point about when you're in orbit, you are constantly gravity causes you to constantly accelerate down towards the center of the planet. Mm-hmm. That's the way gravity works. However, you are falling at the same rate as the planet falls away from you. Now, the curvature of the planet, if it was, say it was the Earth was flat, yeah, you would fall towards a flat Earth. Listeners, I'm drawing a diagram with both hands and both arms.
It's fascinating.
So, yes, you would like a cannonball, fall towards the Earth and hit the Earth. However, the curvature of the Earth means that I'm making a curve with my forearm, which isn't really curved. You would kind of fall round as the Earth falls away. So you fall at the same rate as the curvature of the Earth curves away from you. There is that point where you would just keep on curving in. You will lose energy in your orbit, so you will slowly start to fall in. We see it in the original series where the orbit starts to decay because the Enterprise has lost power, and they have to do something weird and scientific to try and get energy back so they can boost their orbit back up. The International Space Station has to do it as well. The orbit will decay, and then they use the little boosters to kind of increase their height above the Earth. In terms of real orbits, there are a bunch of different orbits that we have today because we like to put things in orbit, whether it's telescopes, space stations, satellites used for GPS or weather monitoring. We've got satellites for everything.
There's one looking at me right now. Hello.
Ooh, hello.
Yeah, don't say anything bad against the Canadian government, otherwise they'll have they'll target Kevin Scharf. Geostationary orbit is probably the one you've heard about most often. Geostationary orbit, it's got a height of 35,786 kilometres, and it means that your orbit is the same speed as the rotation of the Earth. So you always stay above the exact same position of the Earth. So if you're on a geostationary satellite and you look down, you'll be looking down at the same view of the Earth. The Earth will not rotate with you. Low Earth orbit, things like the International Space Station is in low Earth orbit, which I think is anything below 1,000 kilometres. It sounds like quite a distance, but it's not. It's really, really close.
Not when you're talking astronomically.
No, and yeah, indeed. Then you get medium Earth orbits, which most of our satellites sit in, I think. Then you get the polar orbits we spoke about, and there's things called sun-synchronous orbits.
Sun-synchronous?
Which means that you are in the same position relative to the sun, not relative to the Earth.
What's the advantage of that?
Do you know what? That's out with the bounds of my research today.
Maybe you only want to see the pretty lights of the nighttime side of the planet.
Maybe I'm thinking there's the satellite, the SOHO NASA mission, which basically is there to monitor the sun for flares, coronal mass ejections. What is the surface of the sun doing? Is it likely to kind of have a big ejection that could affect life on Earth?
Yeah.
Or satellites. I know there was the story comes to mind about the coronal mass ejection that wiped out the Canadian national grid at some point in the recent past. Maybe when was it, Kevin?
I want to say
the 70s.
I want to say it was in the 70s. I don't remember it myself, but
yeah. I know I've got a vague memory of reading about it somewhere, but
wasn't there one in the early 2000s that wiped out the northeastern U.S. grid temporarily?
No, that blackout wasn't caused by a solar mess.
Oh, okay.
Somebody took out
in
2004. There was a mass blackout that took out most of the eastern seaboard from New York all the way to Toronto.
Kevin, did you install some dodgy software from the dark web?
Well, I needed. There were some
mistakes were made.
Things there I needed, and yeah.
FBI, it was Kevin Scharf. He lives near Toronto. Kevin, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. I wanted to know all about orbits, and you have explained it succinctly.
So, listeners, if you have any burning science questions that you think I might be able to answer, or even if you think that I maybe can't answer them and you just want to try and test the limits of my knowledge, like an advanced higher student asked me the other day, he was like, told me they'd been reading a lot about quantum physics over the summer holidays. And then it occurred to them that Rutherford's scattering experiment might not have been what they thought, and it might have been all down to quantum effects. And I'm like, okay. Now that way, as a teacher, sometimes you don't really understand the question. And think, I need time to think about this. So I did. Went back to him with what I thought was a good answer, and he was like, that sounds reasonable. I was like, woof, thanks. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
Well, it just occurred to me that Rutherford on Lower Decks might have been named after Rutherford.
I think you might be right. Ernest Rutherford, the English physicist.
I just think that, we could talk about science all day, but I like that the Trek writers use science, but they don't let it get away in the way of their good stories. So,
for sure.
I liked the TNG for that reason. I think I read an article in like 1992 or 1980. I don't know when it was, but it was when I was a teenager, and I read an article, and I think they'd interviewed the science consultant, and I loved the fact that they'd employed somebody that knew about science to consult on their science storylines. It just made it kind of a bit realer for me. I love the fact that they had somebody there to guide them and make sure their storylines were reasonably sensible.
And so, so that it's science fiction and not fantasy. And that's one thing I love about it. And, nothing wrong with fantasy, different strokes for different folks, but I like the sciencier, the better.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I love fantasy, I love Star Wars. Yeah, I love Lord of the Rings. But if it's sciencey, I'm going to like it maybe that little bit better.
Yes, same here.
Incoming transmission.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show and hope you'll join the Facebook group Federation Council Chambers. You are welcome to start conversations with us or add any general Star Trek info you want to share with the group.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can email the network at galaxyclass@ufp.earth, and we might read your email on the show. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at GalaxyPod. No, at GalaxyClassPod. I don't have Twitter.
please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a star rating and a written review. That helps others find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcasts with our master feed by searching for United Federation of Podcasts. This way, you won't miss any of our fine shows like All Good Things, Franchise Fatigue, Always Hold On to Arrow, History with the Szilagys, Mickey's Marvels, Infinite Diversity, and Sasquatch. So, Rhea, where can people find you when you are falling towards a planet but keep missing in orbit?
Well, actually, I guess I'm kind of doing that right now, aren't we? If I jump high enough?
We're all orbiting something.
That's true. But when I'm not falling ever closer towards a planet, yet keep missing the mark, you can find me. You can send me an email at riapod47@gmail.com. If you email the show at galaxyclass@ufp.earth, by golly, we'll read that on the show too. But more often than not, you can find me in the Federation Council chambers or outside grilling turkey legs. So, Joe, where can people find you when you are not practicing your Ferengi whipping skills?
When I'm not doing that, I think it'd be quite good with a whip. Yeah, like
whipper?
Cool whip. I think I'd be good at that. But when I'm not doing that, you can get me on episode 56 at this same point where I tell you where you can get me. I think that's probably quite good. Because, do you know what? Why bother? Because this episode has been such fun to record. If you're listening to the edit, you won't know what's been going on. Because I've so exquisitely edited it together. But
there was much editing.
Yes, there was much editing. So you can get me in all those normal places. And Kevin, where can people find you?
Just generally.
Yeah, right do you know what? I don't even care anymore. Where can people find you?
I'm just north of Toronto in a small town. I'm very rural right now, staying with my sister for a little while until I get a place of my own. That's where you can find me. If you want to find me online, I do a couple of other podcasts. You've heard about them.
Yeah, nobody cares
True
about
North
them.
Nerds.
Just hurry up.
Yeah,
Go.
Stage Whispers.
Stage Whispers. True North Whispers. There you go. Find Kevin there.
There you go.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/UFPearth. That is patreon.com/UFPearth to get all the details. A huge shout out to David Willett, our associate producer of the network. Hi!
We would like to recognize our executive producers, Brandon Shea Mutala, Ken Tripp, Zach Moore, and Tony Robinson. We would also like to thank Zach Tripp for our awesome opening and closing music, and Tony Robinson for cranking out our amazing artwork week after week after week, but not this week because he's on holiday.
I hope you're having a lovely holiday, Tony. Thank you for beaming aboard Galaxy Class. Until next time.
Oh, am I first? Let's just go with that. Oh, am I first? Oh, this is one for the books.
Whip it. Stay classy, Galaxy.
And I'm third. Why not?
Oh my god.
Engage.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.